He was not a man of war but of silence, navigating through each moment with a calculated calm that spoke louder than any battle cry. In the waning light of his career, he found himself standing on the precipice of a lifetime of sacrifices, a teacher who had given decades to shaping young minds. The echoes of chalk on blackboards haunted his quiet evenings, but it was within this silence that he felt the vastness of his achievements and the slowly widening void of retirement ahead. There are men who are broken, and there are men who become sharper in the silence of betrayal. He was the latter, a figure standing tall not because the world demanded it, but because he could feel the intangible strings of loyalty and deceit masked within the ones he held close. It was this deceptive tranquility that mirrored the depths of his untapped rage. Some betrayals echo louder in silence than in screams lingering in the corners of half-remembered affection and unspoken words. His daughter-in-law, Jessica, with whispers as cold as the lights of an empty stage, intruded upon his sanctuary with an agenda bold enough to shock and confuse. Her arrival was a storm brewing beneath the placid surface of familial obligation, a darkness cast into the gaps of his once peaceful existence. To her, his silence was a void to fill, an opportunity to exert control. But what if, you must wonder, silence was the weapon he waited years to unsheathe? She mistook quiet for cowardice, but some kings do not roar. They wait and then erase. Here, in this world where the shadows play tricks on the trusting and the oppressive weight of betrayal feels inevitable, there lay the foundation for his unyielding strategy. Emily, the heart of this unfolding tale, epitomizes the resilience born from a life of understated defiance. She stood as a beacon of fortitude, a betrayed monarch whose realm extended beyond classrooms into the depths of her soul. The sacrifices she made reverberated through her family, though unseen by those who took her grace for granted. But in Jessica there brewed a manipulation like a tempest, her bold declarations and disruptive intentions unraveling the carefully woven fabric of Emma's hard-earned peace. When Jessica stepped in, eyes shimmering with avarice and the intoxicating tilt of perceived power, she demanded what was hers to decide alone. Emily's car, a simple yet profound extension of her autonomy. Still under such onslaught, Emily remained silent, not from fear but from the awareness that rebellion brewed best when nurtured beneath her composed exterior. It was a strategy, unhurried and deliberate, much like her approach to life. She recognized that sometimes the greatest message was delivered not through retaliation, but through the deliberate withholding of expected reactions. In these moments of familial dissonance, when the ground threatens to shift beneath one's feet, the essence of one's spirit speaks clearest. Emily's spirit, once harnessed by the constraints of her teaching career, now unfurled with the agility born from decades of quiet strength. Her existence, once defined by chalk and whispers from her classroom, now emerged, ready to face the flickering moral darkness encroaching on her personal narrative. As time stretched forward, the question remains, why would such a person choose to remain silent? In this conundrum lies the paradox: strength, perceived as weakness only by those who do not understand its full measure. For Emily, like the silent king, her composed demeanor concealed the sharpened resolve of a strategist, prepared to reclaim control with an iron will, and the poised grace of one who has learned that true power often lies not in the act but in the waiting. She thought his silence meant surrender, but it was instead the sound of a mind preparing its next move with precision. Her misstep would be his advantage, her betrayal the key to his awakening. In this place where shadows linger longer than light, where winter's chill bites deeper than the warmth of summer ever reaches, he understood the power in choosing when to speak and when to remain a deliberate enigma. Emily's deliberate calm masked a whirlwind of strategic thought. The conflicts with Jessica were never overt, but rather simmered under the surface, full of tension and unsaid words. This tranquility, contrary to Jessica's belief, wasn't submission but a calculated form of power. Emily understood that reactions can sometimes empower the wrong people, feeding the very chaos she was resolute to quell. Jessica's audacity to sell Emily's car, a seemingly simple act, was a well-crafted overreach. For Emily, that car symbolized more than transportation. It was a vessel carrying her through decades of commitments, challenges, and little joyous escapes from her otherwise regimented life. Purchased with hard-earned savings from her early teaching days, it represented her journey, independence, and unyielding spirit. Jessica, blinded by her pursuit of control, underestimated the emotional weight that Carr carried for Emily. She saw the vehicle as a mere asset, a means to assert dominance over the elderly burden in her life, while Emily saw it as an extension of herself, free, capable, and determined. The brazen act was a miscalculation by Jessica, thinking the material overdrive of her actions would cow Emily into compliance. But Emily's resolve hardened, instead sharpening into a quiet resistance. The car, now resting in someone else's hands, ceased to be just metal and rubber. It became a pivotal element in the unfolding power dynamics between them. Jessica failed to perceive this and misjudged Emily's silence for acquiescence, not grasping the iceberg of intent lurking beneath that calm surface. Jessica's knack for exploiting vulnerabilities wasn't limited to possessions. She weaved her influence into family ties, aiming to rewrite alliances with perceived charm and manipulation. Her presence introduced a distorted power play in the family, turning Michael against the values he grew up with. Emily's son, once radiating with unpretentious simplicity and warmth, gradually transformed under Jessica's sway. Jessica knew how to play on insecurities, amplifying doubts and inserting wedges between Michael and the truths he once cherished. Michael became the fulcrum in this delicate balance of familial power, a pawn whose kind-hearted nature was skillfully manipulated into a tool for Jessica's ambitions. He was unaware of the subtle, corrosive shift in his loyalties. Emily, noticing these changes, felt the growing chasm during family gatherings. Moments that once brimmed with laughter now felt heavy with unspoken discontent and emotional distance. But instead of confronting Michael head-on or rushing into the fray with Jessica, Emily held her silence. She realized that any overt moves would only solidify Jessica's narrative of her as the overbearing mother-in-law. Instead, Emily chose a path of quiet perseverance, watching closely and listening to conversations from the periphery, gathering pieces of a puzzle that only she could see was falling apart. Emily's internal struggle transcended petty revenge. Her strategy was rooted in understanding the long game, recognizing the power dynamics at play, and deciding when her interventions would be most effective. She committed to reclaiming her voice and dignity, but she resolved to do so without unleashing a torrent she couldn't control. Rather than explosive retribution, Emily sought to dismantle Jessica's influence by shedding light on the fundamental truths and ties that were being eroded. The truth had a potency Jessica underestimated. While Jessica believed her financial maneuvers and charismatic facades would keep Emily at bay, she couldn't see that these were fortifying Emily's spirit and resolve. The transparency of her shortcomings and her over-reliance on smoke and mirrors would eventually crumble, leaving only the bare truth exposed. Emily knew that time and patience were her strongest allies. As the pieces shifted within this familial chessboard, Emily quietly continued her vigil, maintaining the strength of will and heart that had carried her through so many battles before. Her journey was not simply about a car or misplaced loyalty, but a profound examination of one's convictions and the determination to preserve what mattered most. Through every silent moment and withheld reaction, Emily waited for the right time to assert her position, not with aggression, but with the unwavering resilience of a teacher who had not merely taught others, but had learned deeply from her own life's lessons. Within the intricate tapestry of family ties, the fragility of relationships unfolds with a delicate yet potent force. Emily's bond with her son Michael had always been the cornerstone of her emotional world. Long before Jessica's arrival, their relationship was filled with warmth built on mutual respect and unwavering support, a mother and son partnership against the challenges life hurled their way. But as the shadow of Jessica stretched across their family gatherings, its impact was like a slow encroachment of vines, smothering a once vibrant garden. Michael, unwittingly drawn into Jessica's web, was left vulnerable by his earnestness and naivete. In his eyes, Jessica's charm and confidence painted an enticing portrait of modern woman empowerment. Yet beneath her alluring veneer was a subtle manipulator well-versed in the art of persuasion. Her methods, cloaked in warmth and enthusiastic encouragement, played upon Michael's inherent desire to please and protect, luring him deeper into the tangled skein of deceit and emotional power plays. Family gatherings gradually evolved from jovial reunions into awkward choreographies of subtle jabs and forced smiles. Emily, accustomed to being the heart of her family, noticed the widening chasm that Jessica had deftly crafted between herself and Michael. A once effortless exchange of philosophies and jokes now felt stilted, often overshadowed by the unspoken tensions Jessica expertly wove into their lives. Emily missed the camaraderie they once enjoyed, the freedom in the way her son laughed openly or fought passionately for his beliefs. Now, Michael's laughter seemed hollow, more a reflection of Jessica's influence than his own conviction. Emily could perceive the shadow of doubt ever present behind his eyes, a silent conflict that weighed heavily on his conscience, born of the growing distance between what he perceived as loyalty and what was in truth a subtle erosion of self. The gatherings grew increasingly unbearable as Jessica's presence became an omnipresent reminder of what Emily stood to lose. It wasn't merely the loss of a car or tangible assets; those could be replaced or let go with time. What worried Emily most was the potential severance of a bond that defined her very existence, one nurtured in countless moments of silent understanding and conversations that stretched long into the night. Jessica's intervention in their lives, imbued with the deftness of a puppeteer manipulating marionettes, revealed itself as more than mere meddling. Her adeptness at twisting the narrative, portraying any attempt at clarity from Emily's part as unnecessary skepticism or dated thinking, gradually isolated Emily from her own son. Even small acts of overt kindness from Emily were often reframed by Jessica as either overbearing or controlling, planting seeds of doubt in Michael's mind. Emily watched this transformation with both a mother's love and a strategist's eye. She noted how over time the conversations shifted, drawing Michael further away, not just from her but from the beliefs that once underscored his own identity. Where Michael once saw his mother's wisdom as instructive, he now questioned its relevance, an effect of Jessica's understated yet impactful campaign. Resilience and patience became Emily's guiding pillars, serving as silent reminders that family dynamics, although fragile, need not fracture under strain. She opted for a strategy veiled in positivity, incremental and subtle, an approach that acknowledged the humanity in all its players, informed by the lessons of her life's adversities. She understood that rage or radical action would only risk replicating the current chaos, a Pandora's box, better left unopened. Emily thus placed her faith in the eventual power of truth. She clung steadfastly to the belief that with time Michael's innate intelligence and loving nature would prevail, rising like a phoenix from the suffocating ashes of manipulation. She resolved to be his silent anchor, casting herself not as a matriarch brandishing ultimatums, but as an unyielding presence of stability and integrity. Her interaction with Michael adjusted accordingly, where each exchange subtly emphasized honesty, openness, and unconditional love. Through her words and actions, she sought to recalibrate their connection to what it once was, a living testament that unassailable honesty and unrequited love need not abandon principle or dignity. As Emily navigated these emotional storms, she was constantly reminded of the delicate balance required to preserve the integrity of their family. Each interaction reaffirmed her belief in the transformative power of truth and resilience, driving her to remain unwavering in her mission to protect what matters most without losing sight of the mother's love that defined her. Purpose. In this landscape of shifting loyalties and hidden motives, Emily's journey of silent endurance continued, a mindful dance between patience and resolve. The saga of power, emotion, and familial bonds trundled onward as Emily waited for her moment to reclaim her family's narrative with grace and truth, redefining their shared destiny. As Emily delved deeper into the tangled web that Jessica had woven, the air was thick with realization, a realization that painted her daughter-in-law as more than just a manipulative presence, but as a skilled puppeteer, orchestrating her own theater of deceit. Jessica's financial manipulations came to the fore, stretching beyond petty grievances and encroaching on the very pillars of trust and stability. It wasn't just loans that were cleverly worded and time-strapped, but a tapestry of deceitful schemes that had stealthily spread their tendrils into every corner of Emily and Michael's lives. Emily's finances, which once provided a buffer of comfort and security, were now strained under the weight of Jessica's machinations. The subtlety with which Jessica preyed on familial generosity, accessing funds for concocted emergencies or phantom investments, revealed a mind sharpened in the art of deception. Those financial requests, cloaked in feigned reluctance and familial urgency, were nothing more than veiled attempts at exploitation, attempts that became increasingly audacious with each success. Such revelations served to highlight a more disturbing transformation, a discernible shift in Michael himself. Under Jessica's influence, the son she once knew had evolved into a shadow of the loving individual he had been. This metamorphosis, gradual yet unrelenting, was akin to watching a rose crumble under the oppressive weight of deceitful vines. Michael, in his innocence and innate desire to please, became an unwitting accomplice to Jessica's schemes, his once open heart now barricaded behind a facade of false loyalties and manipulated truths. These dynamics forced Emily into an act of profound introspection, confronting the unraveling crisis with an unyielding resolve. In the quiet corners of her reflection, she recognized the dual battle that lay before her: to reclaim her financial independence and to resurrect the bond with her son that manipulation had threatened to sever. It was here that Emily realized the paramount importance of striking a measured balance between assertive action and an empathetic touch, a balance essential to dismantling the false reality that had taken root within her family. In the quiet moments of her reflections, she revisited memories of Michael's youth. She remembered a boy who wore his heart on his sleeve, whose trust in the world was as unshakable as his trust in her, his mother. It was this memory that stoked her resolve, the conviction that beneath the layers of influence and imbalance, Michael's core remained untarnished, a sleeping giant poised to rise once more. It was this belief that drove Emily to forge a plan with surgical precision, one that remained rooted in legality, logic, and unwavering integrity. What Emily needed now was clarity, not just emotional clarity, but material evidence capable of breaking the chains of manipulation that bound Michael to Jessica's whims. Surveillance became her tool of choice, an unassuming yet powerful beacon of truth. Through it, Emily sought to illuminate the shadows where Jessica's financial indiscretions lurked. Each captured exchange, every recorded transaction, added color and texture to the portrait of deceit that Jessica had painted over their lives. The revelations that came to light were sobering. Jessica's betrayal was no longer an abstract notion, but a quantifiable force. Documented proof of misappropriated funds and dubious investments under her guise emerged as pillars of evidence that Emily could now wield. With each passing day, the narrative of their family became clearer and Emily's plan more meticulously crafted. Silence and observation were her allies, and truth was the sword she would wield when the moment demanded action. In the background of these machinations remained Emily's steadfast duty as a mother, to shield Michael from the gravitational pull of Jessica's manipulation while preparing the groundwork for revelation and reconciliation. Alert to the ever-shifting dynamics, Emily utilized every interaction to subtly reinforce values of honesty and unconditional love that had always defined their familial bond. It was a delicate dance requiring shrewdness and a heart resilient enough to endure the long game for the sake of the son she so deeply cherished. The landscape of Emily's life, marked by these covert battles and yet punctuated by her silent victories, set the stage for a deeper exploration of her family's destiny. Her endurance was no longer just a necessity. It had become an embodiment of her unbreakable love and unshakable spirit. The rising tension layered with encroaching revelations unfurled Emily's resolve, a resolve to confront and reclaim, to guard her dignity and her cherished role as matriarch. It was this burgeoning strength that promised to redefine their shared destiny, a destiny vested in integrity, patience, and the transformative power of unwavering love. The revelation of betrayal marks a pivotal juncture, the canvas of Emily's life painted with strokes of deception uncovered. As the evidence coalesces into undeniable truth, Emily intuits the prudent ways she must proceed, enveloped by a cloak of quiet determination. Gone are the days of denial or restraint. Today is earmarked for action, the day her meticulously gathered arsenal of facts would render Jessica's world asunder, while cementing Emily's own fortified path to justice. Surveillance footage nestled discreetly in the folds of shadowed alcoves, and whispered transactions now lay bare every indiscretion. Jessica's tendrils of manipulation, once hidden beneath layers of charm and cunning, were now starkly visible, a multifaceted labyrinth of infidelities, fiscal misappropriations, and entangled falsehoods. Every image, every transaction acted as a whisper in Emily's ear. "She is not who she pretends to be," it insisted, urging Emily onward with relentless persistence. In the privacy of her study, Emily reviewed this trove of incriminating truths, each snippet an echo of inevitability that was both freeing and burdensome. The burden of knowing a weight she had carried alone in silent communion with truth demanded release. Exposing Jessica would not only liberate Emily from this oppressive knowledge, but also act as a beacon guiding Michael through the dark labyrinth of Jessica's deceitful intentions. But herein lay the complexity of the forthcoming confrontation. Emily's heart was riven between motherly love for her son and the stark exposure of truth's harsh glare. Michael's unwitting complicity, a byproduct of years spent cocooned in Jessica's strategic duplicity, required delicate handling. She must disentangle the intricate web around him without causing irreparable collateral damage. She knew the incendiary power contained within the revelation, his entire existence as he knew it poised on the brink of redefinition. Yet this was not just about Michael, or even about claiming retribution against Jessica. It was about Emily reclaiming her narrative, one that had been hijacked by an interloper. Her plan, born of resilience and forged in silence, was ready to be enacted, a calculated unraveling, executed with the precision of a master tactician. Her steps forward would not be driven by vengeance, that base fleeting impulse. Rather, they were propelled by a deeper yearning for equilibrium and integrity that would resound through the generations. The face-to-face confrontation with Jessica promised an end to the charade that had ensnared them all, a performance dictated by illusion. Jessica's rehearsed veneer, carefully molded to exploit vulnerabilities, would soon be tested in the crucible of truth. Emily's determination to reclaim her territory emotionally and materially framed every word she would wield in their encounter. This moment balanced precariously between exposure and closure, and the path was narrow, a razor's edge, defined by nerves and resolve. Emily's insights into human behavior, deeply informed by years of shaping young minds and a keen understanding of psychological dynamics, had subtly guided her past Jessica's smoke and mirrors. These insights now armed her with the strength to dismantle the facade of marital bliss that Jessica had erected. Every encounter leading to this revelation had been a chess move in a game where the stakes were her family's future stability. Emily knew that disclosing the depths of Jessica's betrayals had to be timed precisely, a revelation that not only dismantled falsehoods but buttressed her own standing and re-established the bonds of trust, sadly neglected. She knew it demanded more than just presentation. It needed absorption, letting the pieces fall, and ultimately, the arduous journey of healing. The groundwork was primed. Each step on this path would be considered an act of reclamation. She allowed herself a moment to envisage the aftermath, a landscape no longer marred by pretense or fear, but a domain resplendent in the sunlight of authenticity. Her vision, clear and unwavering, pulled her toward the confrontation that was inevitable and necessary. As the final hour approached, Emily prepared herself not just for a battle of truths, but for the restorative reconciliation that lay beyond. The choice to confront was one of empowerment, the culmination of preparing for her and Michael's liberation from the shadows of deceit. The quiet strength that Emily embodied promised not just revelation but redemption, promising a new dawn unmarred by the betrayal that had once sought to define her life. The game was set, and Emily had methodically maneuvered her pieces into strategic positions. Now it was time for the reveal. With each day that brought this moment closer, she felt the weight of truth pressing at the gates of her silence, straining to break free, to light up the shadows that had crept into her life through Jessica's deceit. But before revealing the full extent of her power, Emily knew she must first revisit the singular event that gifted her the very weapon of empowerment, her relationship with Mr. Morgan. Years ago, Emily had befriended an elderly neighbor known for his intricate storytelling and encyclopedic knowledge of local history. Mr. Morgan, wise and perceptive, had seen something in Emily, a resilience mirrored in his own contemplative reflections on life. Through their conversations, a friendship blossomed, emblematic of a bond that transcended generations. It was this bond that later led to an unexpected inheritance, one that Emily had kept secret, wrapped in privacy and confidentiality. Mr. Morgan had entrusted her with assets that carried an intrinsic value, both emotional and financial, that Jessica could never understand or reach through manipulation. These assets, securely hidden, represented more than their monetary worth. They signified trust, love, and a powerful sense of justice that Mr. Morgan had seen in Emily, a belief in her unwavering ability to rise above adversity. From this deep well of resilience and trust, Emily now drew, preparing to counter the exploitation and betrayal Jessica attempted to weave around her. With each piece of the puzzle now settling into place, Emily's decision crystallized. It was time to bring forth the ace that would shift the dynamics entirely. She would not wage a war of anger or petty revenge. Her approach was meticulous, strategic, and inherently restorative. For someone like Jessica, who thrived on chaos and manipulation, there was no counter to Emily's calm and systematic unraveling of deception. Emily began to lay the groundwork in legal terms, enlisting the help of an estate lawyer to protect her interests and the bequeathed assets. Every document, every detail meticulously filed and presented, ensuring no loophole could be exploited by Jessica's cunning ways. She learned the art of patience as taught by Mr. Morgan, the quiet, dignified endurance that prepared her for an unstoppable march toward justice and liberation. As she navigated the intricate legal landscape, she also connected with empathy to Michael, her son, whose understanding of the matriarchal strength had been obscured by Jessica's manipulations. Michael was caught in the quagmire of affections, deeply rooted in misguided loyalty, but now showing flickers of awareness under the strain of Jessica's increasing audacity. Her strategy was simple yet profound, to reveal in increments on her terms without haste or hesitation. Before Michael, she laid out fragments of evidence, knowing that the sum of the parts would eventually point to a resolution, a realization that could not be ignored. Emily committed not just to building a case, but a sanctuary for the truth to blossom amidst the rubble of deception. This plan was more than revenge, it was a lesson. For everyone involved, including Jessica, it was a testament to accountability and consequence, a stand against dishonesty enveloped in calmness. In doing so, Emily crafted a tapestry where past and present wove together to reclaim dignity, not out of bitterness, but from a place of empowerment. The tension mounted as Emily waited. Each tick of the clock marked a step closer to a confrontation devoid of spectacle but rich in gravity. The hour was near when Emily would step into the arena, not just to protect what was hers by right, but to demonstrate that in a round of deceit, those fortified by authenticity and the quiet wisdom of friendships like that with Mr. Morgan always have the upper hand. Underneath the layers of quiet preparation and resolute resolve lay a legacy Emily sought to uphold, not merely her own but that left by those like Mr. Morgan, who saw in her the fortitude to carry forward a torch of truth and tenacity. With this hidden ace now ready to be played, the stage was set for a revelation that promised not just freedom, but the reconstruction of family and self-respect. Emily strategized her next moves with the precision of a chess player, understanding that each decision carried the weight of her future. The tension between Emily and Jessica had reached a breaking point, a crescendo of silent emotional warfare that had been simmering beneath the surface for too long. Jessica's incessant scheming, always lurking in the shadows, had finally drawn Emily towards a decisive moment. In this carefully orchestrated game of chess, Jessica believed herself to be the queen, commanding the board with a presumed superiority. Yet she was oblivious to the quiet yet unyielding strength of the pawn, who moved with patient purpose towards an inevitable transformation. Motivated by the relentless pursuit of controlling Emily's assets, Jessica revealed her hand and overconfidence that blinded her to the web Emily had been quietly weaving. The quiet support from her ally, Mr. Morgan, was the sanctuary Emily needed. She found solace and strategy in the wisdom inherited through his resources, strengthening her resolve in the face of her daughter-in-law's betrayal. Emily's history with Mr. Morgan was more than a lifeline. It was a lesson in resilience and integrity, the very foundations Jessica effortlessly ignored. Throughout the conflict, Emily had fought silently, enduring Jessica's manipulations with a grace that only comes from years of self-sacrifice and emotional maturity. Her life as a teacher had equipped her with the skill to understand, empathize, and ultimately outmaneuver those who underestimated her. Each lesson learned from her career now became tools of empowerment, converting past sacrifices into present strengths. She was trained to guide young minds. Now she channeled that expertise into dismantling the hold Jessica had tried to establish over her life. The scheme was simple yet effective. Emily planned her confrontation with a sense of calm authority, making moves that were as deliberate as they were cunning. It was not revenge for the sake of vindictiveness. It was emotional justice, an equilibrium of power reset by the acknowledgement of deceit and the unyielding pursuit of truth. The groundwork was laid meticulously, each step carefully planned to dismantle every false pretense Jessica had built. Emily envisioned her victory to be one of quiet fortitude, a revelation pronounced not in words screamed across dinner tables, but in actions that spoke profoundly to the truths Jessica could not refute. Her strategy was rooted in addressing the specter of betrayal without creating a spectacle, ensuring that her dignity remained intact while Jessica's illusions crumbled under the weight of undeniable reality. Jessica sought to breach the fortress of Emily's life, but she overlooked the strength woven into every brick and mortar of Emily's resilience. While Jessica pursued legal control, Emily reclaimed the narrative, revealing the hidden truths she had safeguarded. This wasn't merely a legal battle, it was a reclamation of autonomy, an announcement to the world that Emily's worth was non-negotiable. How does one dismantle deception so intricately woven it becomes felt? Emily held the answer, fortified not by the desire to defeat, but by the yearning to declare her truth. Empowered by Mr. Morgan's sustained faith in her, she armed herself with legal knowledge and the wisdom of quiet contemplation. Jessica had underestimated the depth of Emily's resolve, failing to see the silent storm gathering strength just beneath her calm exterior. The irrevocable turning point was near where Jessica would stand before a tableau painted by her own duplicity. But within the eye of this storm, Emily glided with the composure of someone who knew that true strength lies not in loud declarations, but in quiet determination. The material world Jessica so fervently coveted would soon become a monument to her own downfall, not through Emily's rage but through her unwavering grace. This was the moment where past meets present, where justice meets dignity. It was set to be a confrontation that promised not only retribution but revelation. Emily wasn't driven by the desire to retaliate. Her aim was far nobler. She sought to restore the balance of respect and truth within her familial sphere, to leave a legacy not of revenge but of reckoning. Her future, like a tapestry, stitched together with the threads of resilience and grace, now awaited the unveiling. And with each passing moment as Emily prepared to stand before Jessica, the realization dawned that the power dynamics within this strained household were about to be irrevocably altered. The arena was set, the players unaware of the magnitude of the lessons soon to be learned. In the wake of Emily's strategic maneuver, a palpable tension settled over the household, fraught with unspoken truths, soon to rupture the surface. Jessica, wrapped in her own facade of control, had grossly underestimated Emily's capability and resilience. Her plan to manipulate the sale of Emily's beloved car laid bare her miscalculation. Emily's resolve was as impenetrable as the family legacy she sought to reclaim and protect. Rather than play by Jessica's rules, Emily chose a path that flipped the script entirely. She decided to gift the car to someone truly deserving, someone whose life would change positively with such a benefit, not as an act of vengeance, but as a message of empowerment. This decision was Emily's way of subtly yet powerfully asserting her autonomy. The family assembled for what had under deceitful times been mistaken for ordinary gatherings. Yet this day felt different, as if the very air carried a charge waiting to ignite. Michael, ever the doting son, veiled in blissful unawareness, ambled alongside Jessica, whose simmering impatience barely contained her brewing frustration. Emily's planning had been meticulous, her intent deliberately clear. As Jessica attempted a final push to assume control over Emily's possessions, she met unwavering resistance, an emotional armor Emily had long been fortifying. Jessica's disbelief was palpable when Emily announced her decision to donate the car. Torn between disbelief and rage, Jessica's incredulity boiled over, her eyes darting towards Michael as if seeking an ally in this familial battle. Yet Michael, caught in the crossfire of his wife's ambitions and the unyielding authenticity of his mother's intentions, showed signs of awakening from the fog of manipulation. Emily with calm precision laid out the terms. The car was going to a young teacher, someone who mirrored Emily's passion and dedication in her early years, a gesture of gratitude for the life she had led. Emily's declaration served both as a defiance of Jessica's perceived dominion and a lesson in true value, because wealth wasn't measured by possessions, but by the impact and kindness one could extend to another human. Jessica, sputtering on the verge of protest, found her voice drowned in the quiet fortitude of Emily's resolve. The confrontation had begun to reshape the very foundation of their family dynamic, forging a pathway for awareness and redemption. Michael, now faced with the shimmering clarity of truth, found himself at the cusp of understanding. With each piece of evidence Emily had gathered, each correspondence and document laid bare, the veil of deceit Jessica had meticulously woven around him began to unravel. Jessica's shallow justifications faltered like shadows against the blinding sun of revelation. Michael's initial disbelief slowly morphed into a painful recognition of his own cognitive dissonance and naivete. As Emily dismantled the illusion Jessica had constructed piece by painful piece, it was not done from a place of bitterness but from necessity to allow Michael the space to embrace the truth. Through the documents and careful narration of events, Emily showed Michael the contrast between his wife's manipulative machinations and the steadfast sincerity Emily had consistently offered. The scales of justice were balancing, driven not by desire for vindication but by the imperative for honesty and integrity. The shift was profound. Michael's journey from incredulity to acknowledgement mirrored a spiritual awakening, scattered pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, finally aligning into clarity. Emily's gentle guidance helped him process the emotions that surged, a tide of betrayal overcoming the shores of complacency. The confrontation served as the epicenter of a personal transformation, with Emily's unwavering grace acting as the balm to soothe the sting of realization. With the table set before them, a mixed tapestry of past mistakes and potential redemptions, Jessica's veneer of control crumbled. The once dominant power dynamic was reduced to a mere conceptual shell, hollow and exposed. Emily emerged not as a conqueror but as a beacon of resilience. Her actions had afforded her an undeniable respect, reclaiming the autonomy that had been so zealously pursued by others. Standing amidst the remnants of confrontation, Emily's dedication to her principles, those intrinsic values rooted in dignity and respect, shone like a lighthouse guiding a storm-tossed vessel to shore. Her actions, carefully calibrated not for retribution but for illumination, marked a defining chapter in the family's unfolding narrative. Poised at this new nexus, Emily understood she had enabled a transformation, leaving a legacy richer in wisdom than any material possession could ever bestow. In the silent aftermath of the confrontation, Michael stood on the precipice of clarity. The carefully woven fabric of lies that Jessica had crafted was now unraveling before his eyes, revealing a tapestry stitched with deception and manipulation. The evidence Emily provided was undeniable, each piece meticulously presented to avoid the ambiguity that had clouded his judgment for too long. There it was, laid bare, the transactions, the indiscreet messages, the breadcrumbs that led to this moment of harsh truth. As the weight of realization sank in, Michael was left grappling with his naivete, the misguided loyalty he had so blindly nurtured towards a woman whose intentions were anything but pure. It was like waking up from a deep slumber, the fog slowly lifting to expose the harsh light of reality. He felt a spectrum of emotions, shame for his gullibility, anger for the deep-seated betrayal, and a profound sorrow for what could have been a harmonious life had deception not been the centerpiece of his marriage. Emily, ever the steadfast figure amid the chaos, stood by him not as an accuser, but as a pillar of support. Her demeanor was not one of triumph but of empathy, understanding the complex avalanche of emotions that had descended upon her son. The role reversal was poignant. Once Emily had been the one reliant upon Michael's guidance, but now it was she who extended a lifeline. This new dynamic was a testament to Emily's resilience and her undeterred commitment to family despite the tangled web of her son's affiliations. The journey Michael now had to embark upon was daunting, an inward trek towards comprehending the magnitude of treachery that had existed under his own roof. Each revelation was a step further into the depths of introspection. How could he not have seen the signs? Love, or what he believed was love, had blinded him, creating a comfortable cocoon of denial. Emily's role now was to guide him through this pivotal acknowledgement without pushing him into the abyss of despair. The evidence of Jessica's manipulation was comprehensive, an intricate dance of financial malfeasance and emotional deceit. It was a stark reminder of how trust once shattered can leave indelible scars. As Michael sifted through the remnants of their relationship, he was forced to reconcile with his part in this narrative. His passive acceptance had allowed Jessica's behavior to fester and evolve unchecked. In the midst of this personal upheaval, Michael found a reluctant ally in self-reflection. The ordeal demanded he reevaluate his priorities, his alliances, and ultimately his own understanding of loyalty and love. With Emily's support, he was slowly stitching together a tapestry of resilience from the rubble of his past. Now lessons, not memories, formed its foundation. Michael's journey was not only about distancing himself from Jessica's toxic influence, but also about redefining what it meant to be a son to Emily. A shift occurred where the bonds of family were no longer dictated by obligation, but by mutual respect and understanding. Emily's grace throughout the debacle was a beacon highlighting the path he needed to tread in order to restore his sense of self-worth and dignity. The narrative of their intertwined lives was being rewritten. The villainy that had once poisoned the family dynamic was being exorcised, replaced with earnest efforts to rebuild. What lay ahead was not just an emotional reckoning, but an opportunity to forge a new beginning. Emily's wisdom and strength had sown the seeds for a resilient future, one where authenticity reigned over appearances. Michael, equipped now with clarity and perspective, embarked on healing, eager to demonstrate that betrayal could be met not with vengeance but with a pursuit of personal growth and reconciliation. The road to redemption was not a solitary journey. Emily's unwavering presence, a testament to her enduring love, was Michael's compass. Together they navigated the fraught landscape of rebuilding, each step taken with deliberate intention to heal and solidify the newly restored familial foundation. As the shrouds of deception lifted, Michael emerged not unscathed but decidedly wiser, his story a testament to the transformative power of truth and the enduring strength of a mother's love. In the glow of early morning light, Emily sat contemplatively at her favorite spot by the kitchen window, a serene smile draped across her lips. This is where healing began, where resilience unfolded after a storm of betrayal. The air was crisp, filled with the promise of renewed beginnings, while echoes of past tensions slowly dissipated into nothingness. Here, the collaborative journey between Emily and her son Michael embarked on a resolute path toward emotional reconnection, a restoration of trust, and familial bonds broken by past deceptions. Michael, feeling the weight of past indiscretions, set aside his former naivete, standing now as a man willing to face the consequences of misplaced loyalties. In the vulnerability of newfound awareness, he approached Emily, desperation edged in every word as he sought forgiveness. The act was not a mere plea for absolution, but a declaration of intent to realign his priorities and rebuild the bridges scorched by deceit. This indeed marked the starting line of redemption, a complex and personal endeavor marked by genuine remorse and reflective reconciliation. As they shared heartfelt conversations, each word spoken was a stitch in the tapestry of their mending relationship. Emily, ever the pillar of strength, saw through Michael's distress, recognizing a reflection of her own pain, offering silent assurance through her steadfast presence. This process was not defined by forgiveness alone. It was characterized by a deep understanding that both must work collaboratively towards emotional healing. Emily's wisdom, garnered through years of nurturing relationships, became Michael's guide. Her ability to let the past inform, rather than dictate the present, offered a masterclass in moving forward with dignity intact. Learning served as the central theme of their reconciliation. Michael committed to unpacking the layers of manipulation that had clouded his judgment, his approach to familial duties now etched in transparency and sincerity. He reevaluated his influences, understanding that realignment required an unwavering commitment to authenticity. The recognition of his own failings became fertile ground for growth, mirroring Emily's earlier sacrifices that had long gone unrecognized and unappreciated in the haze of manipulation imposed by Jessica. Through their shared journey, Emily and Michael discovered lessons rooted in acceptance and accountability. Time was not merely a healer, but rather an opportunity, a space in which to deliberate, to comprehend, and to fortify their relationship against new and old adversities alike. Emily imparted these insights to Michael, emphasizing actions over words, compassion over judgment, and rebuilding over revenge. Her lessons, grounded in her own narrative of resilience, encouraged Michael to embrace vulnerability as a stepping stone towards strength rather than a weakness to conceal. Integrated into this narrative were vivid lessons inherent in human relationships. As Michael reflected on his surroundings, he realized that authentic connections outshone superficial allegiances, forming the bedrock of true camaraderie. He found himself surrounded by allies who had remained constant, whose support guided him away from the precipice and towards a newfound clarity. Emily's lifelong friendships stood as testament to the endurance and value of genuine relational bonds, further inspiring Michael to reconstruct his social paradigm with a mindful approach. In tandem, they navigated legal quagmires, a necessary but daunting endeavor aimed at disengaging from the remnants of Jessica's influence. This was a practical embrace of their reality, a safeguard for their shared future unencumbered by past missteps. Herein lay another profound lesson: confronting reality with a clear mind and a forthright heart yielded a power undeniably restorative. Michael became an emblem of rebirth, fortified by hardship, yet driven by a resolve to enact lasting change. As autumn leaves whispered promises of transformation, Michael and Emily embraced their pivotal roles in an evolving familial landscape. Together, they charted a path grounded in cooperation and mutual respect, striving to shape a legacy imbued with authenticity and strength. The prominence of Emily's influence was undeniable, with every lesson she imparted anchoring Michael in the realm of integrity and love. Every moment thereafter rippled with the potential for generational impact, catalyzed by their determination to break cycles of manipulation and rebuild upon foundations of honesty and respect. Emily's resilience was no longer a solitary beacon, but a guiding light for Michael, instilling confidence in the power of redemption and healing. The dawn of their renewed bond painted a vibrant canvas, one that transformed past grievances into a tapestry of hope and reconciled futures. Ultimately, their story was not solely one of familial redemption but also a tribute to enduring love that withstood the test of hardship. As the journey unfolded within the embrace of healing, Emily and Michael became architects of their legacy, sowing seeds for tomorrow while nurturing the fruits of change today. Jessica's presence, once a whisper in the family corridors, now roared with the ferocity of a gale, her intentions bared and disposition defiant. In the face of crumbling dynamics and her precariously held deception, she reached a point of no return, a last, desperate plunge into manipulation, a final attempt to clutch the reins of control that had long slipped through her fingers. Her theatrics unfolded in the grandeur of a confrontation, one both subtle and overt in its design, yet unmistakably desperate in its plea. The atmosphere was heavy with tension. Emily's composure stood as a stark contrast to Jessica's frayed resolve. Where Jessica brimmed with desperation, veiled in a semblance of humility, Emily embodied unwavering fortitude. Jessica's eyes glistened not with regret but with a cunning long polished to mirror sincerity. A calculated act of contrition tinged her voice as she sought redemption not from guilt but from her dread of loss. Her imploring words were an orchestra of rationalizations, each note a strategic lie orchestrated to evoke sympathy, to weave a narrative she hoped Emily might be coaxed to believe. In this pivotal moment, Emily wielded truth like a sword, each word a calculated choreography of authenticity. No longer ensnared by the strings of manipulation, she had transformed each lie uncovered into a brick of resilience, constructing a fortress impenetrable by deceit. Jessica's entreaties, each more elaborate than the last, were met with the cool armor of Emily's resolve, her silence speaking volumes more than words of condemnation. Jessica yearned to reignite an allegiance she had never genuinely maintained, a fruitless endeavor to sway Emily back to complicity. Her repeated vows of reformation were mere shadows against the glaring light of truth that Emily had already embraced. She sought to blur the stark outlines of her betrayal, painting a past rich with shared milestones and entwined lives. To Jessica, every incident was but a misstep, and every deceit a misunderstood endeavor. Yet Emily's unwavering gaze pierced the veneers of half-truths, revealing the desolation beneath each of Jessica's crafted facades. Revolutionary in her simplicity, Emily's rejection of Jessica's veiled sentiments was a declaration. No words of affirmation entertained the hollow promises that Jessica labored to tessellate. Instead, Emily's steadfastness became her reply, her silence and stony resolve, dismantling Jessica's constructed reality brick by fragile brick. Jessica's final stand dissipated, the echoes of a legacy marked by manipulation drowned in the quiet but seismic shift of power towards Emily. There was no room left for half-baked reconciliations or surrendered honesty adorned with ulterior motives. Each moment cemented Emily's reclaiming of her life from cherished trinkets once threatened to a future cleansed of a repetitious past. Her independence unfolded like a banner unfurled into the wind, carried not by past grievances, but by newfound liberation. For Jessica, the stage dimmed her curtain, closing on echoes of schemes and aspirations crumbled. Yet for Emily, a beacon emerged brighter and clearer with every passing second, illuminating a path unfettered by chains of disbelief and betrayal. As Jessica slunk into a retreat of her own making, Emily emerged renewed, a phoenix unfurling wings of resolve from the ashes of manipulation, all set for the flight toward an era of rebuilding. What Jessica failed to understand, what stood out starkly in the aftermath, was that Emily's narrative had transformed, not merely resisting deception, but transcending it. The hour of emotional vengeance executed not with counteraction, but through the power of her remade dignity turned tides long stagnated. The room, once confining and dense with the weight of misdirection, now expanded with liberating possibilities, and unspoken alliances formed against the sepia-toned backdrop of familial entanglements. Here Emily found not triumph over an adversary but victory over a cellular decay of trust, one replaced by the comfort of clarity, earned through deliberate self-examination and unwavering acceptance of truth. In denying Jessica the stage upon which manipulation might dance unchecked, Emily authored a novel script, her legacy, proving that true vengeance lay not in mirrored deception, but in an undecorated authenticity, unshackled by the chains of manipulation. Across the latitude of her journey, Emily cultivated a narrative of grace over revenge, pride in place of misplaced loyalty, a standing reminder of dignity emblazoned upon the hearts of those she cherished most. Emily's path moved onward with an unwavering stride, the air of betrayal swirling in her wake yet unable to touch her. The resilience of a woman reborn from the shackles of deception bore nothing but clarity as she endeavored to create anew from the rubble left by deceit's crashing wave. Every step was a calculated symphony of grace and empowerment, a testament to the foundations of strength upon which she now stood. As Jessica's part in the narrative dwindled to mere shadows, Emily's sights were set on forging a grounded existence, utilizing her experience as a pillar rather than a hindrance. Through therapy, Michael began to peel back the layers of his own vulnerability that had unwittingly allowed manipulation to take root. Each session became a renewed focus on finding authenticity, a truth buried beneath the veneer of his former life that Jessica's influence had marred. Michael's journey is akin to emerging from a dense fog into lucid daylight. The legal separation signified not just a thematic break from Jessica, but a tangible commencement of a newfound freedom. He found himself inching toward a profound understanding of personal boundaries, a key he never knew he possessed but always yearned for. The therapeutic dialogue unfolded with the richness of undiscovered vocabulary as he learned to articulate the internal tumult that Jessica's deceit had nurtured within his psyche. Unexpectedly, this transition became a pivotal opportunity for Emily and Michael to rebuild their familial bond, a regenerative process marked by newfound mutual respect and clarity. Conversations that once navigated shallow waters now delved deep, reclaiming lost territories of trust and love. Emily, ever the guiding matriarch, anchored the family as a bastion of wisdom and empathy, a lighthouse guiding Michael away from the treacherous reefs of his past choices. The strengthening of this relationship mirrored Emily's personal voyage, crafting a narrative where mistakes became powerful lessons and forgiveness was a tireless ally. Michael's gradual realization that he was more than the victim of his wife's manipulations painted a path toward self-reflection and growth. He embraced the flawed yet earnest parts of himself, his journey a landscape rich with the promise of authentic connection and repaired relationships. Emily saw in Michael's endeavor a mirror of her own, a shared saga of revival, and the timeless dance of rising above former missteps. In witnessing her son's metamorphosis, she nurtured her own soul, drawing from an endless well of empathy refined by her experiences. A story once rooted in pain and struggle was now flourishing in the soil of acceptance and psychological resilience. Alongside these profound emotional shifts, practical steps were taken to solidify the changes. Emily's acumen in restoring both stability and trust became an underlying current propelling Michael further from the jaws of disappointment. The legal proceedings served as a formal demarcation for Michael, a resolution to disentangle from the web of dysfunction and start anew in tangible ways. Both mother and son put concerted efforts into their undertakings, with Emily guiding Michael towards financial literacy, family therapy, and rebuilding networks of genuine relationships, pillars essential for resisting any further forays into deception. Their stride was accompanied by a shared determination to safeguard future chapter from duplicity's encroaching shadows. Here, the lens of reflection broadened, depicting a canvas bright with possibilities, yet seasoned by the spectrum of lessons hard learned. It was the intangible measure of Emily's newfound strength and Michael's unlearning of deceit that wove the tapestry anew, each thread symbolic of patience, perseverance, and accrued wisdom. As their endurance seasoned under the sun of reformation, Emily and Michael acknowledged an abiding truth. Their ultimate triumph lay not in avenging the past, but in flourishing independently of it, painting over its margins in those colors they chose and understood best. Every day was an invitation to etch a legacy born from the transformative alchemy of lessons learned and love unshadowed. In this renaissance of their union, the family tapestry unfolded richer and encompassingly warm each interaction, a beacon of newfound belonging and solidarity. Emily, resolute and serene, stood as a testament to the undying nature of hope, her tale no longer confined within the confines of deceit, but rewritten with the ink of empowerment and unyielding grace. Together, Emily and Michael forged onward, strengthened not just by parental bonds but by the ever-resilient spirit of rebirth common to those who dare to reclaim their narratives from the grasp of betrayal. Through mutual empowerment, the family renewed not just itself but the very essence of what it sought to represent, a chorus of shared resilience and the indefatigable dance of truth's enduring light. As Emily navigated the dawn of a new chapter in her life, her surroundings began to glow with the soft warmth of healing and renewal. The fractured bonds between her and her son Michael had begun to mend their web, strong with the newfound respect and understanding forged in the crucible of shared turmoil. No longer was she beholden to the shadows of past betrayals. Rather, she stood in the clear light of resilience, having reclaimed the independence that allowed her essence to blossom again. In reflecting on her arduous journey, Emily recognized the magnitude of her growth. It wasn't merely about cutting ties with deceitful influences or wresting control of her life back into her hands. It was about embracing the peace that stemmed from self-reliance and the ability to discern sincerity amidst the chaos of familial bonds. Her heart, no longer tethered to unfulfilled expectations or prescriptive roles, beat with the rhythm of self-acceptance and pride. Such personal enlightenment reframed the family dynamics she and Michael now experienced. In an environment where power dynamics once tilted precariously, there was now a solid foundation of mutual support and care. Emily, with a heart full of quiet strength, offered reassurance as Michael endeavored to navigate the murky waters of trust and loyalty, aligning his vision with one that prized integrity over the corrosive allure of superficial unity. Their interactions no longer bore the strain of Jessica's manipulative tendrils. Evident shifts flickered like gentle beacons, urging them both towards a legacy not defined by past grievances, but by the potentiality of shared dreams untainted by false pretenses. Conversations flowed with a gentle fluidity, each word uttered a testament to the fortified respect and empathy cemented through hardship. Though the path to this serene chapter was beset with challenges, the journey cultivated a resilience that had been lying dormant, hidden beneath the guise of complacency. Lessons learned were not dormant. They were dynamic, lighting the way forward as reminders of humility and human frailty. The past, once a labyrinth of betrayal and hurt, now served as a reminder of the unpredictable dance of life's vicissitudes, to be navigated with an open heart and discerning wisdom. In the realm Emily and Michael constructed anew, family was no longer merely defined by blood but by the choice of who to invest their time and energy in. They found allies among those who truly cared, the former students, who had become an extended circle of support for Emily, buoying her spirit with warm reminders of her lasting impact. They became pillars where she rested her tired soul, contributing to an increasingly vibrant tapestry enriched by genuine relationships. Each individual woven into this tapestry offered more than just camaraderie. They gifted Emily and Michael with perspectives stretching beyond their immediate reality, offering essential insights into a life where hardship was transmuted into strength. Together, this network became a reflection of life's enduring truth. Real connections are rare, precious, and worth holding onto with fierce determination. Emily prioritized these values, ensuring that the legacy she wished to leave was steeped in dignity and authenticity, untouched by the triviality of superficial appearances or false empathy. It was a conscious journey requiring the persistent shedding of old patterns, leaning instead on the pillars of wisdom gained through adversity. The chapter they now embraced was not one of endings but of promising beginnings. In their stride laid footprints of boundless love and the unswerving will to remain rooted in honesty. The past, though its lessons glaring, bore no grudge nor lasting impression upon the narrative Emily chose to pen. Instead, the future loomed vast and bright, an unwritten canvas alive with the flicker of possibility. As Emily stood firmly within this embrace of change, she knew the path they walked was symbolic of the transcendent power of resilience and rebirth. Through every endeavor, she and Michael opted for truth, unwavering in their pursuit of a legacy characterized not by vengeance or retribution, but by the undying strength of self-respect. In this grand tapestry of life, their story resonated with the soulful symphony of healing, empowerment, and the enduring dance of light where shadows once loomed. In the intricate web of Emily's life, genuine relationships proved seismic, each connection reverberating with an authenticity that transcended the superficial bonds that had subtly ensnared her family. Through shadows cast by betrayal and manipulation, Emily learned to distinguish the golden threads of true companionship from the brittle strands of deceitful alliances. Her former students, those she had silently nurtured with wisdom and empathy, emerged as unexpected sentinels of support when familial ties frayed under the strain of subterfuge and avarice. This newfound family did not share her blood but were bound by a shared history knitted together by care and understanding. These were allies forged in the mutual fire of struggle and triumph, recognizing the unworthy nature of Jessica's dominion in Emily's life. Their presence affirmed that family can be constructed from honesty and kindness, shattering the myth that only shared lineage can dictate where loyalty lies. Emily's sanctuary became their collective wisdom, an environment untainted by the toxicity of Jessica's machinations, a place where Emily rediscovered her own resilience. Jessica had underestimated Emily's capacity for love, one not constricted by familial obligation, but flourishing from empathy and shared values. The facade of Jessica's pretensions now lay starkly contrasted against the raw sincerity extended by those whom Emily had unknowingly cultivated into staunch advocates. Each interaction with them served as a reminder of the profound impact of integrity and of the power held in authentically investing in others. As whispers of compassion swirled around Emily, they formed an unyielding armor against the swells of adversity. The realization dawned upon her that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a bridge to deeper bonds. Her journey pivoted from surviving mere transactional relationships to thriving among those tethered together by genuine regard. These were dynamics that Jessica, in her relentless pursuit of control, could never understand nor extinguish. In the wake of this redefinition of family, Emily fostered an atmosphere where authenticity thrived. From impromptu gatherings to heartfelt discussions, she nurtured a circle that was emblematic of reciprocal loyalty and the true essence of kinship. As individual struggles surfaced, a communal strength emerged, reinforcing the need for unity not born of necessity but of desire. The moments spent with these individuals were free from Jessica's grasp, unclouded by the manipulative intent that had plagued Emily's life through marital betrayal. This harmony proved indispensable in contrasting the life Emily once endured. It stood as an enduring testament against the folly of tying one's identity to manipulative ties masquerading as genuine. Moving forward, Emily embraced a future that glittered with promise and rejuvenation, a life built upon principles of unwavering support and acceptance. This reinvention, crafted through bonds resilient to the trials of deceit, became her truest legacy. Here Emily stood as living proof of the fierce capability to reclaim one's narrative and dignity after a cyclone of betrayal. Her resolve was unshaken, bolstered by allies who celebrated her victories as their own. This undertaking was not simply about revealing Jessica's machinations or even Michael's awakening to denied realities. It was a profound shift towards a community of empathy and shared vision, a realm where Emily's lived experience as a mother, teacher, and enduring friend was treasured. This confederation was one Jessica could not infiltrate. Her skills of manipulation could not tarnish the essence of connection built on mutual growth and steadfast trust. Emily's battle wasn't merely fought in dismantling the corrosive influence of a malicious daughter-in-law, but in embracing the inherent strength that blossomed when true relationships were prioritized over false appearances. Having shed the veneer of coerced alliances masked as familial, Emily's life was now defined by a fabric of interwoven aspirations and a dedication to integrity. The wisdom and courage gained from her journey forged a monumental understanding that the roots of a legacy are not anchored in bloodline, but in the sincerity of one's contribution to others. Her path increasingly affirmed an enduring truth: authentic bonds enrich life, carrying the power to transcend adversity's shadows with light and newfound fortitude. The echoes of consequences reverberated around Jessica in the ever-shrinking confines of her own making. As alliances she'd once manipulated crumbled, she found herself surrounded by the silence that followed betrayal. No longer the puppet master, Jessica watched as her once formidable facade dismantled piece by piece, a solitary figure amid the ruins of her constructed world. Her voice, once a weapon, had become nothing more than an echo in the chasm that gaped between her and those she had wounded. Emily, standing on the precipice of victory, had shed the weight of resentment like an outgrown skin. The triumph she achieved was quiet, devoid of the fanfare she once imagined would accompany the downfall of her oppressor. It was a quiet, enduring strength that resonated with her very being, woven into the fabric of her existence. It was a strength that did not demand acknowledgement or validation, for it was now a part of her core, an unyielding testament to her resilience. In her newfound serenity, Emily had embraced the wisdom born of trials. She exuded a calm assurance, having risen from the ashes of familial betrayal and redefining her own boundaries. She no longer needed to shout her achievements to the world. Her silence was testimony enough to her transformation. Her kingdom was not built on the rickety foundations of revenge, but firmly rooted in the bedrock of inner peace and understanding. You, dear audience, who have followed this journey through tangled webs of deceit and redemption, are now standing at a crossroads of introspection. Would you have had the patience, the fortitude to allow silence to be your guiding star? Could you have held your ground as the tides of betrayal sought to erode your essence? In the quiet shadow of betrayal's collapse, would your reactions mirror Emily's resilience? As Emily moved forward, her past became a distant echo, a lesson of survival and rebirth. She no longer carried the heavy mantle of victimhood. Instead, she wore a cloak of silent strength and dignity. Her path illuminated not by the flashy glare of undoing others, but by the soft, persistent light of personal growth and healing. And in that light lay true freedom, a deep breath taken in an empty room now filled with possibility and renewal. Some endings are beyond the grandiose telling of triumph or defeat. They exist within the sacred silence, amidst the whispers of lessons learned and the gentle settling of dust. In her solitary victory, Emily found no need to forgive or forget, for her story's conclusion was carved into the vast tapestry of life's quiet unknowns. Just as light filters through the healed cracks and abandoned objects of her past, Emily stood renewed, unshackled from the echoes of her journey. Would you find the courage to inhabit such spaces, to stand firm in the resonant silence where time itself etches the final testament to endurance and dignity? In this quest for personal redemption and reconnection, your own narrative may unfold, a silent chronicle of becoming, woven not through the noise of retribution, but within the serene landscape of self-awareness and understanding. In the end, the story wasn't simply told, it was felt in every quiet moment, each unspoken resolve, and every gentle breath that signaled a new beginning. As the narrative unraveled and the pieces of Emily's life fell gracefully into place, all that remained was the sublime grace of endings left unsaid. The ring lay quietly on the floor, a silent keeper of forgotten vows, while the light traced the silhouette of Emily's retreating figure, now a beacon for those who might follow. So too can your own story unfold with whispers of transformation and the silent harmony of embraced change. In the stillness, may you find your own journey waiting patiently, ready to reveal the subdued power of shadows cast against the world's enduring light. Some endings are not loud, they are sacred.